Virginia teachers target parents who oppose critical race theory with doxing, shaming, vandalism, and even threats of violence. How soon again can we get these schools up and running? I mean, that's the thing, right? Let's get in a hurry to get these teachers back in front of your kids again. I'm Dr. Duke, he's Dave, and this is the Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness. Hey, Loudon, Virginia, can you hear me? The craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Katie is off being maternal, and so Dave Fiorazzo, who doesn't have a maternal bone in his body, is joining us. Today we start in Virginia, where a hit list, a figurative hit list has been drafted against parents who don't want their kids learning about woke critical race theory in the classroom. How dare you want your kid to learn how to read instead of becoming more woke? Quickly, what happened is that moms and dads on their own Facebook pages and their own private correspondence and had meetings together in public talking about how can we fight back? How can we get rid of some of this critical race theory? How do we try to refocus on education? We don't want our kids, if they happen to be white, to be burdened with 200 years of racism. This is not the way we do business in America. Well, teachers found out about this, school administrators, and they went to war. They went to war on Facebook, war on social media, war behind the scenes to punish and dox and to shame these parents. How dare you, mom and dad, tell us what we will and won't teach your kids? Take a look at the video.
I learned from a reporter that I had been put on a list in a private Facebook group and was looking to expose people and hack their websites for speaking out on, among other things, critical race theory.
At a news conference Tuesday, Ian Pryor, a Loudoun County parent and former spokesman for the Trump Justice Department, says a group of parents from his organization, Loudoun Parents for Education, have been threatened for opposing critical race theory. It's a set of ideas that law and institutions are inherently racist. Their criticism has led to posts on an anti-racist parents Facebook group where it appears people have proposed infiltrating Pryor's group and hacking their website. Loudoun County NAACP President Michelle Thomas says parents are mistaking efforts to promote racial equity for critical race theory. She applauds the school system for its work.
We have real lives at stake. We have real children that continue to be injured, because of the type of insensitivity and cultural unresponsiveness of Loudoun County Public Schools.
Give me one example of injury. Give me one example of how our lives are threatened by this, please. Seriously, you throw these things around. They're in the safest possible place in the American public school system. They are coddled and cosseted. The less white they are, the more tippy toes we dance around them. Give me one example, just one, how they are seriously injured by what happens due to the you lost your argument when you say seriously injured by unsensitivity. Really? Unsensitivity is life-threatening to African-American kids. You are a fraud, madam, and I side with the parents on this.
You see the banner on the bottom of that news? It said they're concerned about methods of teaching. It's not a method, right? No. It's actually the curriculum. It's actually what they're teaching.
It's ideology. It's not a method. You're right. It's superimposing ideology over actual knowledge. Yep. This is a very socialist move. It's very Marxist and communist. What you do is knowledge itself is not an individual pursuit. Knowledge is not an actual goal we can all attain to. Knowledge is not something that's neutral, that anybody anywhere can access it. All knowledge now is racially gendered, is anti-black, it's anti-LGBTQ. All knowledge in the Western culture, anything from science and math all the way down to TV and cereal boxes. It's all racist. And so the only way you can fix it is to ignore knowledge, right? Knowledge is the enemy. And think about how discriminatory knowledge is. The knowledge of calculus does not give itself up easily, does it? The knowledge of how to play a piano doesn't surrender to fools, right? The logic of higher biology, right? It doesn't play ball with illiterate, half-wit 8-year-olds. And so therefore knowledge, it's not just racist and sexist and bigoted, it is non-inclusive. So what do? Is we bring to a grinding halt knowledge. whether we're talking in the humanities or the sciences and math. We bring it to a halt. We lower everybody's work loads. We don't give tests anymore. Everybody gets socially promoted. And we tell black kids that you're superior for not knowing things. That makes you better.
Hey, the Diversity Commission makes an appearance in this article. Plus, this was the Loudoun County that first put Dr. Seuss in the news for de-emphasizing him because of strong racial undertones.
And the good news is that there are actually some teachers brave enough to stand in front of the board, the school board, masked, of course, but brave enough to stand there and kind of call them out. Take a look at this brave soldier.
This school district is upon almost every single school district in the nation that continues to force teachers through mandatory training where we are told to examine our whiteness, white privilege, white supremacy, microaggressions upon every other thing that is absolutely stupid and racist. Now, the same school district wants to threaten to fire teachers who do not agree with the critical race theory. You are the face of privilege. You do not speak for us if you do not work with us. If you keep up this racist insanity, you will have successfully stripped us of every ounce of love of teaching. And so far, you have succeeded in doing that.
And she's got a great point. And to hear it from a teacher is doubly, triply, quadruply important. You're the ones being racists. You primarily white board members, also dangerously progressive, buying what this idiot NAACP woman says. People are dying. African-American kids are literally dying because of your insensitivity. It's nonsense. And so you, in your white power and privilege, you sit up there and you put more and more on the teachers. Simply being a white teacher now is a crime in Loudoun, Virginia. And you must atone from that crime again and again and again before we'll let you teach. And microaggressions. Your very whiteness is a microaggression to these kids. Don't you understand? The fact that you don't look like black or Hispanic kids, that's a microaggression. It is a complete dereliction of constitutional equality protection. It is unbelievably shallow. It is racist. She's 100% right about this. You are racist. And I just wish she was a little stronger with her conclusion. She said, if you keep doing this, you will drive us for our love of teaching. It's more serious than that, ma'am. If you keep doing this, you are putting a target on our heads. If we are the racist you say you are, then we're not safe in the classroom. We're not safe out in public from the people who want to erase these kind of white privileged people. You are putting us in, that's literally putting us in physical danger, not what insensitivity does to poor black kids sitting in classrooms.
I'm surprised they didn't have a little label or graphic on that that teacher's video saying anti-education teacher activist responds.
And you think you've seen stupid? You think you've seen enough stupid? I want you to listen to this teacher who's basically making a statement about Trump flags and how they now are clearly hate speech.
I'm wondering about the Trump 2020 flag and how it started off as a, wanting people to vote for Trump. And then I would say after the insurrection that it has become a symbol of hate. And so I'm just wondering about how we can not necessarily make this about principles individually trying to determine, but maybe a system-wide ruling and write that into the policy.
Miss Tara, can you explain to me how it became a symbol of hate after 2020? How did it became a symbol of hate after this insurrection?
After the insurrection. Can we put that in quotes too?
Right, No, there's no quote. That's an insurrection. Even though more and more of them we find out every day weren't actually conservatives, even though none of them were armed like we were told they were armed, even though nobody was murdered by the insurrectionists like we told they were, we will call it insurrection for the rest of our days. And notice what the little fascist wants. Can't we just write it into the bill that sign, any Trump sign, Trump 2020, and these Make America Great, they're all just symbols of hate and oppression. Let's get rid of them too. Anybody who stands for that kind of stuff, anybody who has a lawn sign on their yard, their kids, maybe we shouldn't let them come to our public school. So just be aware of the takeaway. We spent a lot of time on this story, Mom and Dad. The takeaway is that now they will come for you. The teachers, I'm sick to death of hearing the old standby. This is not the fault of the teachers. The teachers just want to do their jobs. They want to be left alone. No. The teachers are the ones doxing you. The teachers are the ones now calling you vile names in their own back back channel conversations. Do you remember that school board in California that had to quit because they didn't realize they were being filmed, talking about how much they hated the parents, how much they found the kids to be snot-nosed brats, how little they wanted to have to do with parents who were too stupid to tell them what to do? You think that's an anomaly?
Ready for this? The next story, LA prep school graphic teaching students fat, short, unattractive people are oppressed. And according to the story,
I resemble that remark.
Fat, short, unattractive people, females, and individuals without children are among the groups facing oppression or resistance, according to a graphic, and this thing is just mind-boggling, allegedly given to 8th graders at a California prep school. Woke excesses.
You really can't see all the beautiful terms here, right? The circle moves from privilege all the way down to victimhood. And again, at the very lowest depths of victimhood, short, fat, and unattractive. I demand reparations. I demand Look, I want a Twinkie subsidy. I want to be able to be sponge bath by hot people of my choice because I'm too big to wash myself. I want double wide seats on airplanes. You owe me this America. Short, fat, and unattractive.
And Chick-fil-A coupons.
I want coupons. Oh. I want the front door key to every Chick-fil-A where I happen to be at that point. I want double batter on them Chick-fil-A sandwiches. You owe me America. Come on. This is the way it's played, right? I have been designated by liberal progressives as part of the victim class. What are you going to do for me? How are you going to start teaching children that to look like me is to look good? I want my picture in a thong. I want my picture in a thong in every classroom, elementary classroom in this country. I want that now. I won't wear a tutu, maybe a 6'6". I'll wear a 6'6", right? If you want to be a nude 6'6". So a little bit of covering up. And I want my picture as a sign of beauty in classrooms all across this country. Do you understand that America's insensitivity to people who look like me is causing the death of all sorts of pudgy little kids? I'm just going by what the NAACP woman said in the last story. That because of your insensitivity to my hypersensitivities, you're doing a great disservice to kids who happen to be a little on the heavy side. If you can drag men in drag to kindergarten to make young kids tolerant of trans people and cross-dressers, why can't you arrange a luncheon date at Chick-fil-A with me and dozens of kids where we all eat a lot? Wouldn't that build tolerance? Wouldn't it?
So
you have never had this problem in all of your attractive single slimness. You, Mr. Fiorazo, you tread very lightly in how you proceed in this segment.
But I'm an oppressor.
Yes,
now,
you are.
In almost every way. Hey, but there is such a thing as a wheel of privileges and oppression.
See, and it shows you, when I see wheel, I think of cheese. Why can't, see, you just triggered me. The wheel of oppression should be made out of cheese. Yes. So people like me could have some frame of reference. But it's not true, is it? You got to go ahead and you got to line it up with lots of silliness.
Back to the University of Wisconsin. The student government demands doubling ethnic studies requirement. Now, the Student Government Association voted to double the ethnic studies requirement, claiming there has been an increase in bias and hate incidents on campus. The College Fix reported that the Associated Students of Madison voted unanimously to increase the ethnic studies requirement from 3 credits to 6 credits in order to graduate. Now, UW said they're responsible, or the UW is responsible for providing students with the knowledge to become more understanding and empathetic individuals. Isn't that partly the parents' job?
Let's start with the premise. The premise is that there's more racial insensitivity on campus. That is just a complete flat lie. You've created bias response teams on college campuses, which means that everybody is encouraged to call every stupid little thing, right? We had that situation, I believe it was I may have been at actually UW-Madison, where about a year ago, a kid called because when he woke up from his nap in the dorm, his dorm mate was listening to Ben Shapiro on the computer. That's it. So kid wakes up and is not even a black kid. White kid wakes up next to his white roommate. White roommate, while he was sleeping, was quietly listening to Ben Shapiro. The sleeping kid wakes up, goes ahead and calls the bias response team. There are not more racial incidents. What you've done is you've turned almost every single interaction between whites and non-whites into an aggression, right? The very presence of whites in a dining room with black people is offensive to some people. Everything you do and say, every question, every argument, every way of greeting, everything you wear is an affront to somebody based on this new situation. So the reality is there are not more episodes of racial insensitivity. There are far fewer than have ever been practiced in the history of Western culture. World culture, I would say. There's less actual racism in America, which means there is actually way, way, way less actual discrimination on college campuses, unless that discrimination goes against white people. Flip the switch here. The real target for all of this is white people and white culture. The real villains in the story, the ones who are being generalized, the ones who are being scapegoated, the ones who are being judged solely by the color of their skin, is white people. So maybe what you need is to double down and give 6 required mandated credits to study those people's culture who are really being excluded here. The ones who are being prioritized as racial villains, the ones who are being discriminated against the most. Maybe you ought to have 6, 8, 12, 24 required classes on that. I don't think it's going to happen. But before we even get into the stupidity of this story, your premise is flatly wrong.
So according to this resolution, it cites an incident from 21 years ago, apparently, which a black student was photoshopped onto a student admissions brochure. That's one incident. And they also point to an incident in 2020 when campus sidewalk chalk messages blamed the coronavirus on the Chinese government.
So the Chinese government now represents all Asians, and you got to go back 21 years ago to find a picture. And don't forget, this is the same Wisconsin-Madison that spent thousands of dollars removing a big rock from campus that in the 1920s somebody one time referred to as N blank rock. You're telling me seriously? Episodes of racial discrimination are higher than ever before? No, they haven't, and they're not. All you're doing is preying upon a cowardly white administration and all those 80 some diversity officers that you have at UW-Madison, and you go across the UW system. I'll bet you got almost 400 diversity officers at all the different schools working away to find things to be offended by, because you know what? If things weren't really offensive, they'd ought to be jobs. They'd be out of their jobs. If you actually had what you do have, which is universities being probably the least most places in the world, the least likely places in all of world culture where you're going to find any serious discrimination, again, unless it's aimed at white people. And you're now pretending that the word, and I say this every time. First of all, I would say if that petition is correct, that there is more racism than every year at Madison, fire the chancellor, fire the provost, fire all the administrators, and then fire all the diversity czars for failing at their jobs. If every year we're supposed to believe it's worse and worse and worse to be black on a college campus, then how come the administration of those universities don't pay the price? If it's true, and you and I know it's not true, but let's play the game. Let's take deadly serious what some idiot college kid with a fax machine has to say. All right? It's worse every semester, every day. Becky Blank, you got to go. The entire administration of the UW system's got to go. All of Wisconsin's legal system has got to go. All the diversity officers got to go for failing the one and only test that any progressive cares about on a college campus. It's getting worse because liberals said so. So you liberals, pay the price, step down now for the good of critical race theory. It's time now for some real education as opposed to the garbage we've just subjected you for 15 minutes, subjected you to. Paradise Lost, John Milton's great epic poem about the fall of Adam and Eve, the battle in heaven between Satan and his rebel angels and the loyal angels to God. The beauty of that book is one of the great achievements of world culture. It is one of the greatest books ever written. And it's one of those books that by the time your kid used to graduate from college, at least, if not from high school, 50 years ago, 30 years ago, they would have had a familiarity with this book, and it's a shame they don't anymore. And so this is Milton Week. We're bringing you this great selections from this great poet. And go into the third book now of John Milton's Paradise Lost. This is where the Son of God, now he's not yet Jesus. The Son of God would not be Jesus until he was born in human flesh thousands of years later. This is the Son, the eternal triune God, right? The Father, the Son, and the Spirit. This is the Son of God. Now, God has asked a rhetorical question. God says, I want to save mankind. But in order to save him, I need to find somebody who is sinless, blameless, to take upon him the suffering and the sin of mankind and to purge it. Is there anybody in heaven, God says, is there anybody in heaven who would dare take this burden on him? And you get this great response from the Son. Not so on man. Him, though their malice fallen, Father of mercy and grace, didst thou not doom so strictly. Satan and the rebel angels, the Son says, they deserve what they get, everlasting damnation, but not so man. Him, through the demon's malice, have fallen, Father of mercy and grace. You did not doom them so strictly, but much more to pity incline towards man. The demons get what they deserve, but you have much more pity, the Son says to the Father. No sooner did thy dear and only Son perceive, Father, that you purpose not to doom man forever, not so strictly, but that you were going to find a way to pity mankind, he to appease thy wrath and end the strife of mercy and justice in thy face discerned, regardless of the bliss wherein the Son of God sat second to thee. He, the Son, offered himself to die for man's offense. O unexampled love! No example for it. Love nowhere to be found less than in God. Hail, Son of God, Savior of men. Thy name shall be the copious matter of my song, Milton says, henceforth. And never shall my harp thy praise forget, nor from thy Father's praise disjoin. And that is an observation that we don't think enough about in Christianity. What literally happened? That when God asks all the angelic host, all the spiritual beings, is there anyone capable of that kind of love? The only one who stepped forward was his own Son. Happy Easter. All right, if you're a fan of the show, please consider a one-time tax-deductible donation to support our Patriot Club, and we'll send you our signature tumbler. Visit patriotclub.us, that's patriotclub.us. And just a quick reminder to please download our Freedom Project Media app. Simply search Freedom Project in your app store and allow us to make notifications. We'll send it all to you. And that's going to do it for this show for Freedom Project. I'm Dr. Duke. He's Dave. Until next time, stay resurrected, my friends.